Good morning. Today is Thursday, April 2nd. It's about 7:30 in the morning, and I wanted to try something a little bit new during our coronavirus lockdown here in Houston. And if I may have other videos that I'll do, with just some of the thoughts or things that I'm thinking about or insights or sometimes just random chat. I don't know how this is going to end up. But I may do a couple more if folks like it and I get an okay and positive response. And for this morning, one of the things that I'd like to share is something I've been thinking about quite a bit ever since the coronavirus news started hitting, even back in like February. And I always like to think, are we, you know, I don't think we're all that well prepared, because we have some of the shortages and, even just like the mindset of most folks, I've definitely seen some panic and, here in Houston, we have empty grocery store shelves with some of the hot items, just like other places in the country. But I like to think about what would have been a mature way to approach preparing for COVID-19. And the more I thought about it, the more difficult the problem seemed to be, at least initially. And to kind of summarize the thought was it really is reasonable to base a decision on what I know. If I know that if I need to go to the grocery store, I have to have, gas in my car and I have to have money in the bank, so I all these decisions that I make, these little micro decisions, are based off of usually what I already know, what my past experience is. That's the whole process of being reasonable. I don't make it up as I go along. And when I apply this to preparing for a future event, it really is very prudent to forecast what I think is going to happen based on my past observations. So I know that if I behave a certain way at work or do a certain thing, a certain amount of put a certain amount of effort into something, I'm going to get a consistent result, generally speaking. So I kind of adjust my behavior and when I start thinking ahead based off of what's already happened in the past. And I think most people too do too, and I think that's actually pretty reasonable. Um, Unfortunately, the strategy isn't all that effective, on its own for unprecedented or extremely rare events. And I'm kind of unofficially calling this the prepper's dilemma. And it's basically, while rare and significant events do happen, like the COVID-19 pandemic, it's almost always more prudent to plan and prepare for the most likely scenarios. So, if I was doing this video a year ago, I would have been worried about, financial stability or, making sure that, I'm not overweight or making sure that, if I have, any type of, health problems I want to take care of, I'm very interested in, the things that are going to be, most likely given what I know about my situation. So it would have been probably a bad idea to start stocking up on MREs and ammo in my bunker in the backyard if that's going to negatively impact some other health problems that I know I'm more likely to have. Just as an example, I don't have a bunker. Maybe another more real example is that let's say that you're the purchasing manager for a hospital system on January 1st, 2019, and you work in the healthcare field, so you know that epidemics or pandemics are possible, but you really can't reasonably justify, like 1,000% increase in, purchasing of N95 masks for the year. And you do have to justify it because those dollars are going to be diverted away from other supplies that, based on your past observations, are going to be more useful in 2019. So that's the prepper's dilemma. You know that rare things happen and sometimes they're horrible. But how do you best prepare? Because you know that most of the time more likely things need to be addressed. And I was thinking about this for um, just a few days, and I think the best answer and the most mature answer is very similar to planning for retirement. And if you think about it, retirement is a rare event. It's unprecedented. Usually, within a lifetime, I'm going to retire in my, I guess 65 is the normal age, but you can retire kind of any time around then. Some people go early, later, depending on their circumstances. But the key is that you you have to do it along the way. So I don't just go all in with retirement, the last 2 or 3 years of work. That's not going to be really that effective, and I'm going to probably have a rough time, depend unless I'm extremely wealthy. So what most people do when they plan for retirement is they contribute, 5, 6, 10% of their paycheck into a 401k. Maybe you're fortunate enough to work for an employer that does matching, but it's every paycheck. It's every paycheck over 30 years. And that's prepping. You're kind of preparing for something that is going to probably happen down the road, for most of us. And we all want to kind of live a good and healthy and fun retirement after a lifetime of work. And we have to do that in a very disciplined and controlled way, and manage our money accordingly. So so kind of applying that to the coronavirus, to solve this prepper's dilemma. I don't want to, spend my all my disposable income buying toilet paper. That's a bad idea. That's very reactive, and a lot of time, you might be okay, but it would only be by chance. So I think a more mature strategy would be to start to think about what are the things that could affect me. We have certainly another outbreak is possible, or re-outbreaks of the coronavirus once the initial pandemic gets under control. You might want to, plan for a terrorist attack depending on, your situation, where you live. The super volcano under Yellowstone. There's all these things that could happen that are probably going to be rare. Some of them may never happen in your lifetime. So, so start thinking about, what are the things that are realistically, although rare, could impact you, and maybe start saving up money. Like let's say for coronavirus, we might put away, an extra $10 a paycheck for masks or equipment, or maybe non-perishable food if there's an issue with the grocery stores or the supply chain to get food to the grocery stores. So you want to start thinking in terms of that. So you really have started preparing your whole lifetime. And and I know, and I know a lot of times, you'll say, well, you can't prepare for everything. So what, for example, what if I need a ventilator? How do I prepare for that? Are you saying, Matt, that you want to have a rainy day fund to go buy a ventilator and convert a room into your garage? I'm not saying that, but generally speaking, the better off you are to kind of react in an effective way in a situation, you can kind of mitigate some of these other things that you aren't prepared for. So in the ventilator example, if I have to go out and and buy less food because I have a little bit of supply on hand, or if I already have maybe some masks that I bought during the bird flu or the swine flu, when that was in the news. Those are just little tiny things that you can do that are, and I hate to say it, they reduce your chances of becoming infected during that most critical time when ventilators, aren't as available in some areas. And it kind of helps you overall. So it gives you more options. When I go to Walmart, I wear a mask. Even though I'm not, well, in the United States I'm not supposed to, but I do, because I think that's a very easy thing that that it costs me nothing. I have a couple masks. But the benefit, I think, is at least potentially is high if I look at what some of the other countries are doing to control coronavirus. So I'll leave with that. Just to summarize, the prepper's dilemma. It's kind of a maturity thing, and it's not going all in at the last minute. It's really kind of understanding your situation and making mature decisions and kind of addressing it bit by bit over time. I think that's the best answer, and I hope other folks start thinking along those lines as well, because at the end of the day, we have to take care of ourselves and our family, and certainly there's really a heavy human toll that whether it's coronavirus or some whatever the next disaster is that it takes, and if we can anything that we can do to soften that is a good thing. So. Thank you very much for listening. And like I said, I might do one of these every once in a while, depending on the reaction. So hope you all have a good rest of the day, rest of the week, and stay safe.